you caught us behind the scenes at the March for Life New York studio. We're getting ready for an amazing show. We have a fantastic
Yes, we
guest
do.
tonight. Tell them about the guest, Pastor Jim. I'm going to invite people on
We
Facebook.
have with us Dr. Brent Boles, who has written a new
Your show will
book,
go live in
uh,
5 seconds. 4,
Supremely Wrong.
3,
Join us
2,
tonight because
1.
Yes.
you want to hear this stuff.
Blog Talk Radio.
Oh, here it is. Okay.
In the Gospel of John, Jesus said, "The thief does not come except to steal and to kill and to destroy. But I have come that they may have life, that they may have it more abundantly." The thief that steals, kills, and destroys lives came in under the guise of Roe v. Wade in 1973. Since then, approximately 58 million babies have been murdered. Statistics say that approximately 3,700 babies are aborted in the U.S. daily. And there are approximately 1.3 million children brutally losing their lives every year. But March for Life New York was established to bring awareness of this tragedy and to bring an end to Roe v. Wade in our lifetime. For we aim to be history makers in our generation. And now, here are your hosts, pro-life activists, Pastors Jim and Joni Lupus.
Well, hello, history makers. You're listening to March for Life New York Radio, New York's pro-life radio. I'm your host, Pastor Joni Lupus, president of March for Life New York, and we're coming to you tonight live from our New York studio. Right. And we want to thank our listeners, those that are listening on Facebook, on the radio, on YouTube. We want to say a big hello to all our listeners on the radio tonight. Pastor Jim, where are they listening from?
Well, special shout out to Brazil, South America, Norway, Singapore. We got some music in the background. That's all right. Great Britain. And we're excited about India. Been joining us more and more each week. God bless you guys. And of course, all across the United States, we're so thankful to everyone. God bless you guys, and you're in for a treat tonight.
And if you're new to March for Life New York Radio, we want you to know we are a non-for-profit ministry. Our purpose is to educate the public on the horrors of abortion, to fight for the lives of those precious, innocent preborn babies, and also to help the moms who chose to end their baby's life by abortion, to help them find healing and forgiveness in the loving arms of Jesus.
Amen.
Tonight we have a great guest. He's back on again. Tonight our guest is Dr. Brent Boles. Dr. Brent is an OB/GYN certified doctor. He's a medical director of a local pregnancy center, and he's here tonight, back again tonight, to talk about his new book, Supremely Wrong. I got to say, that title says it all. Yes, I love the title. Yep. Welcome back, Dr. Brent, to March for Life New York Radio.
Thank you so much, Tony and Jim. I really appreciate your invite for me to come on and chat with you guys and with your listeners tonight.
We love having you because you always have such great information for us to hear and to share. And you know what? We need more pro-life doctors.
That's for sure.
Well, tell our listeners a little more about yourself.
Well, I'm an OB/GYN. I've been delivering babies. The first baby I delivered was in January of 1991, so that's been a while. But I've been board certified for more than 20 years. I have a practice of obstetrics and gynecology in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, which is about 30 minutes southeast of Nashville. So I live right in the middle part of central Tennessee, and have a busy practice. Do quite a few deliveries every month, and also provide women's health care for other issues. That's the broad range of GYN patients. I also teach. I have academic appointments with the Meharry College of Medicine. I teach OB/GYN residents who are in training in the Department of Obstetrics and Gynecology there. And I have an appointment with the University of Tennessee School of Medicine in their Department of Emergency Medicine. I train emergency medicine interns on women's healthcare issues and how to do deliveries, because sometimes the women roll through the door in the ER and the baby delivers before they can get them to labor and delivery. So
wow.
emergency medicine doctors need to know how to deliver babies. So I do have several hats that I wear.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
one of the nicest ones is my involvement with a place called Portico, which is a local crisis pregnancy center. Started, probably 35 years ago. A local couple here became really, really passionate about the issue when a news story in the mid 1980s ran on the news about how local sanitation workers in a big city were really traumatized when they emptied a dumpster behind an
Wow.
abortion clinic and found all these babies' corpses
Man.
in pieces. And all of a sudden that became their issue. Their names are Trent and Laura Messick, and they are just the kindest, nicest, most gentle people, but they are fiercely devoted to our God and to this cause. And I've been involved with Portico, volunteering as their medical director for more than 10 years now. So those are the things that I enjoy doing, other than being a husband and dad and grandfather now. We've had our fourth grandson
Wow.
last
All right.
month.
God bless.
Our oldest son and his wife live in Phoenix and actually Scottsdale, and they had their first baby back in October, and we spent a few days out there with them after that, and I'm going back in 2 weeks. I can't wait to get back out there and
I
hold
bet.
my
Yeah,
littlest
I bet.
grandson. Yeah.
Oh, I know. Aren't they cute? We have 9 grandchildren now. So they're a blessing. They
They're
really are.
And I'm only 28
There's a
years
reason we
old,
call
so
them
that's pretty good.
grands.
Praise God. So you've done it all. So if anybody could tell us, the truth about abortion, it's really you. I mean, you've seen it all. You're a doctor, and thank God.
Hey, Brent,
Well,
why don't you tell
um,
us a little bit? Tell our
yeah,
listeners about your new book, Supremely Wrong, because it's so important. I tell
okay.
you, that's right on the money there.
Well, that title came to me, probably 11, almost 12 years ago. If I sent you guys a digital copy of the manuscript. When you look
Yes.
at
Yep.
the introduction, the introduction is an updated and edited version of a blog entry that I wrote almost 12 years ago. I was sitting in labor and delivery that day, about to deliver one baby, and then another patient of mine who was in early labor came through the door, and I sat down at the computer and was putting some orders in and waiting for them to come get me to do the delivery, and the first delivery. And it occurred to me that particular day was the 35th anniversary of Roe versus Wade. So it was in January of 2008. And that just got my mind to turning. And so I started, when I had a few minutes, at that time I was blogging on a website called blogspot.com. I don't maintain that blog anymore, but I had just started blogging, about faith and politics and current events and things like that. So I started putting this piece together and decided to call it Supremely Wrong, because it just really struck me that day how far those Supreme Court justices missed the mark on decency and ethics and
True.
medical science
Very
and
true.
morality. I mean, and so I wrote my blog and I posted it, and then it just kind of was in the back of my mind for several months that, I really should do a book about this. So I, wrote a few chapter outlines, and I wrote a book proposal and farmed it out to several traditional publishers, and there just wasn't any interest. I'd never published before. I was an unproven author, the controversial subject, and none of the publishers that I submitted it to had any interest. And so I thought, well, maybe I'll get to it at some point. Maybe I'll meet a publisher. Maybe God's timing is just not what it needs to be yet. And it really kind of took a back burner. And I didn't, of course I thought about it, but didn't do any work on it for several years. And I just
Wow.
continued working, being an activist in other ways, supporting, political agendas and candidates. And I've testified at the legislature a couple of times on different issues and been the medical director of that. But I just really never got anywhere else with the writing. And, my wife would bring it up every once in a while and say, we really need to make that a priority. And, I would agree with her. And then we just, we didn't. And then this spring, I don't know if you've ever heard of Victoria Robinson. Victoria is the public relations director for Save the Storks.
Oh, yes,
She lives
yes,
about 30
yes.
miles from me. Yeah, you know who she is.
Well, we had to save the
She lives about
storks.
30 miles from me.
Really?
Oh, okay.
What?
We had I think we had Paul Isaac, right? We had from Save the Storks.
Okay. Yeah, she works for them. She lives about 30 miles from me, and through social media, she knew who I was and that I was an activist on the issue. And she sends me a message inviting me to a private pre-release screening of Unplanned back in February. So my wife and I and our friends that I mentioned earlier, Trent and Laura Messick, who started Portico, and another friend of mine, Joe Carr, and his wife, Jenny. Joe is a retired state legislator here in Tennessee. We all went over, we had dinner together, and then went to the place where the screening was and saw the movie Unplanned in the theater room in this guy's basement a month before the movie was generally released. And my wife and I left there on fire.
Praise God.
I mean, we were passionate. We were, we were ready to just set the world on fire with it.
Praise God.
So now my wife writes as well. She doesn't write about abortion. She blogs regularly, and she's been putting a book together herself that I'm hoping will be able to get into print sometime during the year next year. But we both agreed that we were going to dedicate some time, set aside some real time, significant time to spend working on our writing. So every weekend, starting there the 1st of March, every weekend I would write for several hours a day, 1 or 2 days on each weekend. And I finished the manuscript, started from scratch, redid my outline, put it all together, and finished it on Pentecost Sunday in May.
That's great.
And I had a relationship with a guy named Josh Shepard. Josh is an editor who works for the Stream. If you can go to the website, stream.org. It's a Christian news site. And he had previously worked for a pro-life Christian news site called Bound for Life. And I've written several pieces for him and his employers before that have been published. And I just said, hey, Josh, would you be interested in being my editor for this? So I sent him the rough draft, and he said yes. So we've become really good friends. And Josh and I worked through the edits that needed to happen, and he really, really helps me put some polish on it and make the book what it is. And he introduced me to a publisher, and they decided to run with it. So we designed my cover and did all of the nuts and bolts detailing, and I have approved the final version of the manuscript, and it's ready to go to press within the next week or so.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And I hope to have some preliminary copies in December, some advanced copies, but the general release date is slated for January 21st, which nicely is, the week of the anniversary of Roe versus Wade.
Yeah.
Wow.
12 years after this idea first came to me, and the week of March for Life in Washington, the national event. So the website is right now is pretty minimal. We're definitely going to be doing some things to develop the website, but your listeners can go to www.supremelywrong.com, and they can see more about the book, see what some people have said about it. We have endorsements
Yes,
from
I saw.
Yeah, no,
yes.
great.
Abby Johnson.
Yes.
Yeah, you guys can read those.
Are they
to your
able to
listeners if you
pre-order
want,
the
but-
book at this point, or
What's that?
can they pre-order the book if they wanted to order your book now? Could
Well,
they,
The
or they would have to
we're
wait?
we're not quite we're not quite ready for pre-orders yet, but there's a block at the bottom of the web page, and if you go there and just put in your email address, then we will email you when you can
When it's
pre-order.
ready. Good.
And
good.
all of the people who pre-order that way will be given a coupon code for a discount on ordering the
Oh,
book.
how
So
nice.
your
That's
listeners
great.
that are interested, they can go to supremelywrong.com
And we're going to put that up
and
on
put
our
in
page.
put in their email address,
Yes.
and then they'll get an email when they're ready for pre-order.
Great.
We're going to put that up on the screen so we can
Yep, we'll
see
get
that.
them out
I
there.
tell
We'll,
you,
we'll
you
talk
know,
about it more too.
Doctor, I really believe God is using you with this book. It's just incredible, and it's an easy read, but it's so necessary. And even the
Yeah,
title,
it calls out the Supreme
title
Court for
is
sure.
amazing. It just grabs you, and all the chapter titles also are amazing.
Yep, and that's what I
Right?
like to speak to you about. And I know one of them that jumps at me is understanding. And one of your chapters is understanding when life begins. That is so vital. Can you tell us a little bit about that chapter?
Yes.
Absolutely. Well, my goal in writing this was to write so that people at an early high school level of reading and comprehension and above would really be able to grasp the meat of this issue, and I think we achieved that, and I'm really proud of it. But that chapter addresses the fact that the other side has done nothing but play word games with science and medicine. They have played word games, and that's how they got this. That's how they got their way back in 1973, and that's how they've tried to maintain everything since then. But I point out the word games. I point out the falsehood, and I lay open the medical textbook that explains it has to be medical to read that chapter and be able to walk away and understand what's important and what's at stake, and be able to repeat it and defend it to other people. And that's what I wanted to accomplish, and I think we did that.
Yes, you did. Yes.
That's great. And another chapter that jumped out at me was. Go ahead. Hello?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, okay. Another chapter that really hit me hard is because we speak about it a lot, but you talked about failure and how the
yes.
church continues to achieve it.
Yes, yes. We talk about that a lot. We're pastors of a church here on Long Island in New York, and we're a pro-life church. And
But we know there's so many problems
Yes.
within the church not really promoting pro-life.
yes,
But tell us about how you address that in your book.
Well, I open that chapter with what I consider to be a stunning indictment of the church. There was a doctor named Bernard Nathan
yes, yes.
who was an abortion. Yes, he was an abortion provider in New York City.
Mhm.
And at the time of Roe versus Wade in 1973, abortion was legal in New York State. A lot of people don't understand that, but abortion was legal in probably 20 states,
Yep.
give or take a few. prior to Roe versus Wade, and New York was one of those. And Bernard Nathanson worked with people in Planned Parenthood and other abortion rights groups to create the public relations campaign and create the false impression that women were dying by the tens of thousands every year from illegal abortions.
Yep.
And of course, it wasn't true.
And nobody
later,
checked it out.
We didn't have ultrasound in 1973. Bernard Nathanson, as a doctor, had never seen what was inside the uterus, before an abortion began. But when ultrasound became available in the 1980s, and he could see the reality of the life that was there, that he had been working to kill for, more than a decade, he walked away.
Yes.
He walked away from the abortion.
Incredible.
He converted gave his life to the Lord.
Yep.
And spent the rest of his life working as a pro-life activist and writer. And he said, and I described this in the first paragraph of that chapter that got your attention, Pastor Jim. He said, why were we so successful? Because the church was asleep.
Wow.
Yep.
Isn't that something? Isn't that something?
Yep.
The church wasn't paying attention, and far too many churches still aren't paying attention.
Yes,
I
that's
agree.
true.
Unfortunately,
We know.
The first century church leaders were courageous men.
Yeah.
And we have far too many churches who are led by people that are not courageous.
Yes.
They don't want controversy.
That's right.
They don't want to ruffle feathers. They don't want to talk about things that cause disagreement.
That's
Why?
right.
They're afraid that people might not like them. They're afraid people may stop coming.
Yep.
They're afraid people may stop giving.
That's right.
And then they won't be able to maintain their big buildings. And,
That's right.
That's not what the church is about. That's not what we're here for.
No, it's
we're
not.
here to be
and
salt.
It's a shame.
And
That's
light.
right.
Yep.
We
And
agree
that's-
100%.
That's what we're told to do.
Yeah.
We agree.
It's unfortunate, so many times we think, we have abortion because of Planned Parenthood. Well, you know what? Planned Parenthood is stronger than the church. We have abortion because the church is asleep. The church doesn't have the courageous people in the pulpit. There's some. Quickly, my wife and I, when we began March for Life New York, we were so excited. We were going to go out to all the pastors that we knew in the churches. And I'll tell you what, at the end of that journey, we were so disheartened and so disappointed at the pastors that said, you know what, we wish you well, but, don't count us in it.
Yep.
But it's a shame. Yep, and it's so important. I'm glad you put that chapter in your book because it needs to be, the church needs to be called out.
Yes.
Not in criticism, but we want to provoke the church to good works.
That's right.
It's time we need the church, the whole church, in on this because it's vital. And the true church is so powerful that to end abortion in our lifetime, we need the whole church on board.
Amen.
But we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come right back after this.
All right.
This portion of March for Life New York Radio is brought to you by FELAC Electric. For over 30 years, with over 40,000 electrical installations, we have earned our customers' trust and an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau. When a FELAC electric service vehicle arrives at your home, it is fully stocked and ready for all your electrical service needs. Your service technician is trained and prepared to provide prompt, efficient, and courteous service. We bring decades of quality and experience, and FELAC Electric holds all local and incorporated village licenses and is fully insured and bonded for your protection. So give us a call. FELAC Electric for all your electrical needs. Call us today at 516-932-7900 or 631-420-1700. FELAC Electric. Done once, done right.
Need information on abortion, fetal development, or Down syndrome? Check out prolifeed.org. Would you like to know about assisted suicide, black genocide, or eugenics? Check out prolifeed.org. Like to learn more about bioethics, euthanasia, or post-abortion syndrome? Check out prolifeed.org. That's prolifeed.org, sponsored by the Long Island Coalition for Life Educational Trust Fund.
Well, we have returned, and you're listening to March for Life Radio. I'm Pastor Joni Lupus, and if you're watching or you're listening, please share this video on your page, like us on Facebook, on Twitter, and subscribe to us now. For us now, we're on YouTube. March for Life New York is on YouTube, so we hope that you share these videos. We want to get all this great information out. And if you have started your holiday shopping on Amazon Prime, you could support March for Life New York just by shopping. It's not going to cost you anything. So please go to smileamazon.com and tell them that you want to support. Every time you shop, you want to have a percentage go to March for Life New York. Please note also that the 2020 March for Life New York will be held on May 18, 2020. We just heard that the New York session will end this year early before Memorial Day because of the elections. And because we want to be there, we want to be outside, right? When the politicians are inside, we're going to be having our march on May 18, 2020.
Amen. And Brent, what is the situation in the Supreme Court right now? And I know it's hard for you to say, but what do you think about Roe v. Wade being overturned?
Well, that has been tried so many times in the last, since 1973. It's definitely an uphill battle, but it's not impossible. The makeup of the court has changed. Where in the early years after Roe versus Wade, every case that came up to challenge Roe was decided against the challengers, usually with a 7-2 vote. When Harry Blackmun was still on the court, of course, he was the majority opinion author for Roe versus Wade and Doe versus Bolton. And he was never going to give on abortion rights. The case has always ruled against those that wanted to challenge Roe by a margin of 7-2. But now the last few cases have been 5-4.
Big difference.
And now we have two new justices on the court. Not only do we have new justices on the court, but we have better justices at the appellate level leading up to the court. Since the presidential election in 2016, there have been, 140, 150 new judges confirmed? Wow. Like him or not, President Trump has done more for the cause of life than any other president since Roe versus Wade.
Yep, and we like him.
Ronald Reagan stole. He still didn't do it.
That's right.
That's right.
That's right. We like him a lot.
So, and I was thinking about this earlier today. I wonder how much of the rage that's directed towards this man in the White House right now
has to do
with his unremitting support for life.
I believe that. Definitely.
You just have to wonder. But so we've got conservative judges who believe in interpreting the Constitution as it was originally intended, at all levels of the federal judiciary. And now the last big Supreme Court case that dealt with abortion, was decided in a 5-4 majority. We got two new justices since then.
Yes.
So if somebody is able to put together a piece of legislation that addresses things in the right way and comes at this issue in a way that hasn't been looked at before, and believe me, there are ways to do this, we may actually see a reversal of Roe.
Wouldn't that be great?
Planned Parenthood is scared to death that can happen. That's why the outrage
during
the Kavanaugh
That's right.
That's it. Sure.
Amen.
Terrible.
Yes. How
is
terrible.
because
Yeah.
Planned Parenthood is
Yeah.
scared.
And they will do
Planned
anything.
Parenthood is
They will
scared.
do
And I'll
anything. Yep.
tell you, the chapter in my book, the last chapter in the book, A Winning Strategy, talks about what I think is the best way to approach this. And that is to approach it from the point of personhood.
Yes.
When does
That's it.
science say
That's right.
that a human being is when is a pregnancy a human being? When does science says the moment of conception?
Yep.
Yep.
Science says that.
Yep.
Medicine says
That's
that.
right. You're the one that told
Anything
us.
else
Yes.
that says,
Yes. You told us it was in the medical books, right?
yeah, that's why I laid the foundation in the first chapter so that people could understand the importance of the winning strategy outlined in the last chapter. If we are able to present, if some state is able to put together, assemble a piece of legislation that clearly shows from the legislative intent that this law is being written because human life begins at conception, and the prior court decisions to say that that is not, that a child, an unborn child is not a person worthy of constitutional protections was wrong, because that's not what was intended in the Constitution, and then presents those arguments in ways that the justices can consider, we may see it overturned.
Oh my
Isn't
God.
that
Right
great?
now, we
Oh.
are trying to pass a piece of legislation in Tennessee, and that's a long story. There's been a lot of opposition from surprising places.
Yeah, right. Yep.
But we have put together a piece of legislation that lays out all that medical language and clearly shows in the legislative intent of this piece of legislation, human life begins at conception, and that it's that from that point on, if the pregnancy has a living, is a living pregnancy, then you can't kill it.
Wow.
And we lay that out, not so much from a 14th Amendment point of view, because most of the arguments against abortion that have been tried and failed come at it from the 14th Amendment and Harry Blackman's misinterpretation.
Yes.
He interpreted the 14th Amendment to justify abortion in the same way that the 1857 Supreme Court interpreted earlier parts of the Constitution to say that black people weren't people.
That's
That
right.
black people are not persons
Isn't that
entitled
something? Is
to
that something?
constitutional protections.
My God.
The 14th Amendment wasn't around in 1857 because it came about after that to correct the deficiencies that the Supreme Court had then. The Supreme Court is not infallible.
No,
That's
for
right.
Sure.
They are
That's for
not
sure.
infallible.
Only God.
They may
Yep.
be final, but they're not infallible.
Yep.
Yep, they're
and-
supremely wrong.
And they worded, yeah, exactly. So, but we have developed what we think is a strategy that challenges that interpretation of the Constitution using the Ninth Amendment and its recognition of common law concepts that all people are entitled to rights and protections.
That's right.
And that those don't necessarily come from the Constitution, but they come from even a higher authority. And that's never been tried before.
Wow, that's great.
Amen.
We got to pray
so,
and fight.
so hopefully your next book will
Yes.
be supremely right.
Ah, that'd be nice.
Maybe they'll turn it around.
That would be
right?
good. Well, doctor,
There's-
how can we change the
There's
view?
the follow-up.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
That's supremely right. That's the
I
follow-up for
want to
sure.
read that book.
Amen. Amen.
Over and over again. I want to read it. How do we change the view? Here in New York, it's very, very
Oh,
bad.
we're
The
living it.
governor, the politician, it's horrible in here where we are. How do we change the view that abortion is not health care? They have this whole thing that it's health care, helping women, when we have to keep telling them, no, it's not. It's hurting women. It's killing children, hurting the women. But how do we change this view on abortion?
Amen. How we change perception, sure.
Tell people to read the chapter in my book that says abortion is
That's
not
it.
health care.
Amen.
That's it. That's right. That's
There-
what we're
there-
getting
there's
at.
a-
Yeah.
Well, tell us about it. Go
There's
ahead,
a
tell
chapter
us.
with that title.
Yes, we know. Tell us.
In that chapter,
Chapter
and that
2.
chapter is actually one of the longest chapters because there's so much to say. You know, as a practicing physician, as someone who works in a private office, as well as a hospital, as well as a freestanding surgery center, I know what we have to do to comply with the law. I know what legitimate healthcare has to do to comply with the law. If abortion is really healthcare, why doesn't it have to do the same things that all legitimate medicine has to do in terms of quality assurance and protections for the patients? That's all outlined in the chapter on abortion is not healthcare, because it's really not.
That's right.
You know, this clinic the Planned Parenthood clinic in Missouri, in St. Louis, it's the only clinic doing abortions in Missouri right now. And I think this week or last week or next week, sometime right around now, there's another court hearing about it. See, they've had a lot of bad outcomes. Lots of patient complications come from that particular clinic. And I read the reports that were available on why the state chose to try to shut them down. You know, they had, I think, maybe 7 doctors. It was either 7 doctors or 9 doctors that had been doing terminations, had been doing abortions during the period of time that they were looking at. And Planned Parenthood would only make 2 of those doctors available for the state health department investigators to interview. And they refused to let them talk to any of the other ones. You know what? I don't have that luxury. If the State Department of Health that controls my medical license here in Tennessee wants to come talk to me about an issue that a patient's had, I can't look at them and say, go away, I'm not talking to you.
See that?
You know, I can't do that. But abortion clinics
get away with it.
Because the courts let them.
Look at Goss now.
You know, that particular clinic,
yes,
they had bad outcomes. They got caught using drugs that had been expired. They were using expired medications. You know, this is just a common theme.
Yes.
Some of the abortion clinics here in Tennessee were actually allowed voluntary inspections by the health department. And then when the health department found out that the equipment they used to sterilize surgical instruments wasn't working and told them they needed to fix it, well, they wouldn't let them come back anymore.
Isn't that something?
You know?
Unbelievable.
Now, several years ago, you probably remember hearing a couple of really scary stories about things that happened in VA hospitals in different places in the country where surgical equipment and endoscopy equipment wasn't properly sterilized and hundreds of people were potentially exposed to hepatitis C and HIV. Well, what about abortion clinics that are told, you know, your sterilizing equipment isn't working? Why are they allowed to stay open until they fix it? You know, if you take the moral issue of abortion off the table as to whether it's right or wrong and you want to treat it like legitimate health care, then they should meet the same safety and quality standards that legitimate medicine has to meet. But they don't.
Yeah,
because they're not.
They get away with a lot. They get away. Look at Gosnell.
Yep.
The Gosnell in
just
Pennsylvania.
crazy. You know, I want to make a point to all our listeners. This is why it's so important to purchase this book.
Yes,
really, to get
it's a
this
great book.
Because, you know, so many people say to us, well, how do I argue against this? When somebody says to me, abortion's health care, how do I argue that point with them? How do I argue with people that say, well, you know, life doesn't begin at conception? Well, you have a book here that chapter by chapter deals with so many issues, and this is where you can educate yourself and get great answers.
Get the book.
This is amazing because it really is, you know, great stuff, especially as you said. It's a great chapter because they give us the garbage that abortion is health care, and it's absolutely insanity.
And it's great to hear from a doctor that, you know, that has such experience. I know that I never realized until last time doctor was on our show that even in the medical books it speaks about life beginning at conception. I never knew that. I didn't know the medical book said that. There's so many, you know, they hide a lot of things.
Yes,
from
they
us.
do. But we're gonna take a quick break because we got so much more.
Don't go away.
The Long Island Coalition for Life has been helping communities choose life for more than 40 years through public outreach, legislative advocacy, prayer, and education. The Long Island Coalition for Life invites you to join their efforts to restore respect for the sanctity of life through the Stand Up for Life and Face the Truth events, street fair booths, oratory contests, and vigils. Visit the Long Island Coalition for Life at www.prolifeli.org, where you can read the LICL newsletter, Life News, and find information on local pro-life resources. Find out how you can be a part of effective pro-life action by calling 631-243-1435. That's 631-243-1435. Or visit our website at www.prolifeli.org. If my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven, and I will forgive their sin and will heal their land. Broken Land, God's Message in a Bottle, is a book written by Gail Koop that speaks God's truth into a culture that has thrown it away. Through a prophetic dream about a baby in a bottle thrown in the trash, God revealed his heart about abortions and compelled Gail, who had 2 abortions herself, to write about it as the moral debt ceiling of today's culture. Because when you throw life away, what else can possibly matter? Gail is a modern-day Jeremiah, crying out to a lost generation. Broken Land, God's Message in a Bottle. Available at Amazon.com and Olive Press Publisher. For more info, contact Gail Koop about interviews or speaking engagements. Go to brokenlandbook.com. That's brokenlandbook.com.
Well, we're back, and we're having a great conversation with
Great
Dr.
stuff,
Brent,
great
and
stuff.
his book is amazing. You have to read this book, Supremely Wrong. We have it right up on the screen. You have to get it, pre-order it if you can, and it's amazing. We really need to know what we're fighting and what we could say. We have to have ammunition to fight, right?
That's for sure.
And
That's
we
for
are
sure.
now we're planning on March for Life New York 2020. It's going to be on May 18th, 2020. It's going to be fantastic. So please partner with us and make this happen. The 2020 campaign is now on. Please, if you could just donate $20 for the 2020 March for Life kickoff, it would help us so much. We're going to have a great march, a great rally. We're planning it. We have everything going. It's fantastic how we're getting this going. And 2020 March for Life New York t-shirts are here now. So you could go to marchforlifeny.org to donate and to get your March for Life New York 2020 t-shirts. That's marchforlifeny.org.
Amen. And Brent, I want to speak to you about Chapter 3.
Oh, I was going to ask him that too. Say that again.
It deals with, that is a great question, when abortion is part of your story.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tell our listeners about that chapter.
That's a tough chapter.
I bet, yep.
And it was emotional to write that chapter. Then the readers will, get more of the details when they read it, and I think they'll get a good feel for how difficult that was. But I am the father of a child that was aborted 25 years ago. Through a long series of bad decisions and wrong thinking and not being as close to our God and Creator as I should have been. When you allow distance to develop between yourself and your Father in heaven, then you don't always see things as clearly, and you don't have the strength you need to deal with unplanned and unintended situations, and you don't have it's not as easy to stay out of trouble. And
True. Very true.
Once sin gets you, it takes you farther than you want to go, to places you never intended to be, and so it is part of my story. And I had not talked about that to anyone until this year. That's more than 25 years ago.
Wow.
And but always just kind of repressed it and, tried to, just put it behind us, behind me, tell myself, that was in the past, and God forgives all our mistakes. And honestly, I wonder if, how much of my earlier activism on the issue was, me wrongly trying to atone for what had happened. And, that's not how it works. But
That's right. That's
what
right.
a lot of people, this is very common for people. Abortion doesn't just have a negative emotional and psychological impact on women. It certainly does, and I talk about that in several different places in the book. How it definitely increases mental health issues and
That's right.
the incidence of depression and suicidal thinking and suicidal action and drug and alcohol abuse, and not to mention the other physical issues with chronic pain and infection and preterm labor and loss of fertility and all the different things that can happen. Yes, we all know that abortion has a huge effect on women. It affects the men too.
That's right. That's true.
We
Absolutely, sure.
feel
Yes.
guilty. We feel
Oh.
like we have just that's the worst thing that a guy can have to feel, is that he's let his wife or his partner or his girlfriend or his child, let him down, So it was, it was tough to put all that down. And I thought about, how am I going to tell this story? And I prayed about it. And then I just started typing and let God guide my fingers. And the story just came out. And,
Wow.
and there it is.
Wow.
For the reader, your
Yeah.
listener to read.
And it's
But
it's so important, sure, because
And
so
you
many
know,
people are suffering.
We have a class
the
here.
the
for-
big
Sorry, go ahead.
let me say, the big thing I want people to understand is that so many people,
Yes.
this is the way the enemy kind of gets us.
Oh,
He
true.
gets you to do something. You give in to certain weaknesses.
That's right.
You make bad decisions. And then he beats you up for it and causes you to beat yourself up for it. And then you think, I can't speak on this issue because I've done that. You think that, and so many people are like that, who want to be out there on the sidewalk, who want to be a counselor in a crisis pregnancy center, who want to do ministry to post-abortive people in churches. But they think, I can't do that. I'm not worthy to do that. I made those mistakes, and, I'm a hypocrite for wanting to do that. No, let me tell your listener, you are not a
Yes.
hypocrite
Yes.
for wanting to do that.
Yes.
You know what? You learn from the mistake, and then you go to help other people.
That's it.
No amount of activism is going to atone for what you did. Only
That's
what
right.
Jesus did
That's
for
right.
us
That's
will
right.
atone
Amen.
That's
what-
good.
for
That's
what
good. Yep,
Amen.
that's good.
Amen.
the change that the gospel brings to your life can be something that you can share with other people.
Yes.
and help them to find healing and wholeness and forgiveness. And it's I struggled a long time, and for everybody's different, but by and large, most women who struggle with this issue struggle with depression and self-loathing. Most men who struggle with it struggle with self-loathing and anger.
Yes.
And anger was my issue. Anger at the hands that did it, anger at the hands that profited from it, anger at the institution that lies to people and deceives them and has created a culture that thinks that it's okay because it's legal and it's constitutional. It's not.
Yep.
Just because it's legal doesn't make it right.
That's right.
That's for sure.
That's right.
Slavery was legal.
Slavery was legal.
Yes.
Yep.
Labor was legal. Outlawing interracial marriage was legal. There are all kinds of things that have been legal that no one in their right mind would agree is right.
Amen.
But that's where we're at with abortion.
Yep.
Well, you know what? I really appreciate how humble you are to
Sure.
share your story.
And the courage it
and
took.
we find that the men and women who've had lost children through abortion are the best witnesses, warning others not to do it, not to, just warning them, giving your story, giving your testimony. And, of course, God forgives you when you repent, but God will use you powerfully to touch people's lives and to, in the church and everywhere, in the outside, in your workplace, wherever you are, in the school, will use you to tell people not to do it. It's not the right choice.
That's right.
And for those that make the choice, we want to help them. In our church here, we have classes for post-aborted women. And the women that teach the classes are women that have had abortions. I've never had an abortion. I don't teach the class. But those that have had abortions and have repented, I'll tell you, they fight so hard to stop abortion.
Amen.
They really do.
Even at even at March for Life in Washington, one of the most powerful
Silent No More.
is Silent No More.
And we have it in New York too.
Yep, we have it in New York
in
our testimony. And Dr. Brent, I'm going to get right back to you because I got a question. Tomorrow is Election Day, and I have a question about one of your chapters. But we're going to come right back. We got to get another commercial in.
Bob and Phyllis have a legal battle ahead of them. It takes a lot to go up against big corporations. I'm Rudy Migliori. My law firm is the gateway to the powerful representation that you need.
Major corporations are big, powerful, and often international. They don't necessarily care about you or the suffering they have caused you. Their concern is how they can avoid liability.
I understand the suffering you're going through. Whether it's from asbestos exposure and you now have lung cancer or mesothelioma, undisclosed side effects from medications, medical products, medical malpractice, obstruction or auto accident, I can help you. If you need powerful representation capable of standing up to these giants, we have that representation for you. My law firm co-counsels with a nationwide network of law firms, providing you with powerful representation and local personal service. Call me, Rudy Migliori. I'm your point of contact.
Need an electrician? Make sure he is licensed, insured, and qualified to do a safe job in your home. Unqualified workers can create unsafe conditions, leaving your home a potential fire hazard. Lightworks Electric is both licensed and insured with over 20 years experience in the electrical field. If you have any electrical concerns, call Lightworks Electric at 631-575-1482. We always do it right. Need a panel change or hi-hats installed or replaced? Do you have any electrical repairs that need to be done? And are you looking for trustworthy, dependable, and honest electricians? Call Lightworks Electric at 631-575-1482. Lightworks Electric is family-owned, serving Suffolk and Nassau counties. Check out our webpage at lightworkselectricny.com. That's lightworkselectricny.com.
We have returned. We're having a great conversation. And we want you to note that the March for Life New York is going to be on May 18th at the New York State Capitol Building. Tim Jacquard from Safe Haven will be the Grand Marshal. Steve Carlin from 40 Days for Life, he's a confirmed speaker. Dr. Haywood Robinson, the ex-abortion doctor, now pro-life, he's a confirmed speaker. And Pastor Bruce Rivers from California, who just said hello to me online, will also be there. And I'm hoping that Dr. Brent will come too.
Yeah, we'll give him a call. We'll see if we get him out of Tennessee then.
Somebody said hello. Can he hear us?
Yeah. I can hear you. Let's talk about that. That could be a good thing.
Good.
I'd like to go ahead and possibly put that on my calendar for you.
Great. Maybe we'll touch base with you this coming week.
Yes.
And I can't believe we're getting down to 6 minutes now.
I can't believe it. He's a great guest.
In honor of Election Day tomorrow, you have a chapter, and I agree with you. But tomorrow's Election Day, and we know the Democratic Party is the party of death. Guys, and if you're a Christian, you got to vote pro-life, which means you can't vote for the Democratic Party. But in your chapter, Brent, you have you speak about the failure of the Republican Party. Can you tell us a little more about that?
Oh, I'd be happy to. And this deserves more than 10 minutes. This
I
needs
know,
like a whole week
I know.
of time. But first, you're exactly right. In the general election, pro-life people need to look and think really long and hard about what they're going to do, because you cannot vote for the Democratic
That's
Party
right.
if you consider yourself to be strongly pro-life. You know what? I do have just a little bit more respect for the Democratic Party than I do the Republican Party on one point, and that's the fact that they do what they say they're going to do.
That's right. They're strong
You know,
on
when
their
they
issues.
stand there in front of when they stand in front of the Empire State Building and cheer when it goes pink at night to celebrate abortion on the due date, they're doing what they said they would do.
Oh, boy.
They're doing
Yep.
exactly what they
Yep.
promised their constituents they would do. We're going to advance abortion rights all the time, everywhere, no matter what, no exceptions, no exclusions. And you know what? They move heaven and earth to keep their word
Yes,
to
they
their
do.
constituents.
That's right.
The Republican Party, how many of these people in the state levels and in Washington stand in front of us in the general elections every time they're up for re-election, asking for our money,
Yep.
promising to be pro-life, asking us to get out there and go door to door and get people to come out and vote for them because they're going to be pro-life and they're going to defund Planned Parenthood and they're going to fight to overturn Roe versus Wade. And then the election comes and goes and you don't hear about it again until the next election. Over and over and over and over. Mitch McConnell is the Speaker, is the majority leader in the Senate, and he's been there for probably 40 years or more. While he's been there, he said in an interview with the biggest newspaper in his home state of Kentucky in January of this year, I believe life begins at conception. I'm pro-life. And yes, in his time in the Senate, he's attached his name to a few pieces of pro-life legislation. But there's not been one meaningful piece of legislation that has made a difference the whole time he's been there. And while he has been in abortion clinics in the United States of America, and he's not the only one. There are plenty of them like that. So what do we have to do as Republicans in the general election? We do not vote for Democrats,
That's
no matter
right.
what.
That's right.
But in the primaries, this is where the Republican grassroots has got to start making a difference. We need to pick some people that have been hypocrites on the pro-life issue, and we need to primary them into retirement.
Wow.
And that needs to happen in states all across the country. We need to come together as a group of people who really care about what we're talking about and are willing to put our money where our mouth is and give of our time and our talent and get some real pro-life people elected to these positions. I'm so tired of the ones who will stand there and say, I'm pro-life, I'll defund Planned Parenthood, and then they get reelected and they won't give you the time of day.
That's it.
Thank
That's
God
it.
for our president, though, right? He's really doing a lot. I mean,
Exactly.
I'm so impressed with him. I really am. And what he said he's going to do, his promise, he keeps his promises.
So far, he's been keeping his promises for sure. And
He does.
And you might
He does.
appreciate this, Brent, but you know what? The Republican Party reminds me a little bit of the church. Right? I mean, if you go to pastors in the church and Christians, they say they're pro-life, but what are they doing about
That's
it?
right.
And the same thing with so many pastors.
Yeah.
I
Right.
can't tell you the pastors that say they wish us luck. What are we wishing us? We need to be.
We don't
First of
want
all, we
luck.
don't need luck. We need blessings. And
You don't need to wish me luck. You
Yes.
need to join me out on
That's
the
it.
sidewalk.
Amen. That's what we tell them.
them.
Absolutely.
90
So
seconds.
important. And just like,
Yeah.
again, we're for the church, we're for the pastors, we're for Christians, and you know what? We're for pro-lifers. But just to say you're pro-life, talk is cheap.
Yes.
We need, like you said, after the election, we need you to be active.
That's right.
Not just to get votes, not just to say you're pro-life, to get votes from the pro-life community, and then, not carry through.
Yeah, protests. We protest all the time.
60 seconds.
Wow, I can't believe we got
Wow,
we,
he's a
we
great
have a minute
guest.
left. Well, in that minute I want to say Supremely Wrong.
Yes.
Guys, if you're a pro-lifer, you need to purchase this book.
Yes.
If you're pro-choice, you need to purchase this book. And what a great opportunity. Brent, can you tell them where they can go to give your email, and you can even get a discount? Well, guys, what's better than this?
They're available on Amazon.com for pre-order. Is that right?
The pre-orders aren't ready yet.
Right,
You
so
can't
they can go.
pre-order yet.
What's
But
the
if you go
website
to-
again?
If you go to
Yep.
supremely-wrong.com. Supremely-wrong.com.
Okay.
There's a space at the bottom of the web page where you just type in your email address and submit that to us. And then when we're ready,
10
people
seconds.
start placing pre-orders, you will be notified by email, and you will have a coupon code that gives you a 15% discount for doing a pre-order.
That's great.
Oh,
that's
that's
great.
great. Yep.
Supremely-wrong.com.
Wow.
Dr. Brent, we're so happy with you, and we're wishing your book. We're not wishing, we're praying that your
God
book
bless
does
you.
great.
God bless your book.
And we're going to
Yes.
contact you this week if we can. Maybe we can make some arrangements.
Yes.
But thank you for a wonderful interview. So much information.
Yes.
Listeners, God bless you. Facebook, Blog Talk Radio.
YouTube.
We love you guys. Now
Thank
we
you
got
for watching.
YouTube.
Share
and,
the video.
And we're excited.
And get the book.
And you
can
can be
a
what?
history
You can be a
maker.
history maker.
Share this video.